Hello to everybody and welcome on my channel. In today's video I'm gonna build this beauty of sunroof, the SpeedyBee B35. I'm gonna show you the way I've built it and the components I've used, such as the stack, the motors, the receiver, the video transmitter, the GPS and the LEDs. I've already used these LEDs on my 7-inch drone and I've made a video about it in which I also explain the specs of these LEDs and the benefit which can bring to your flight controller. So if you are interested, I'll leave the link of the video at the end of this video. Go and check it out. So now let's begin this build. Okay, here we have the SpeedyBee frame kit. As a stack, I've chosen the SpeedyBee F4 Mini stack. Motors, the Helios 2004 1750 kV. The receiver, I've chosen the Crossfire Nano. VTX, the DJI 3 unit, and I've chosen this antenna to replace the O3 stock antenna, since this one is just a bit longer, but same specs as the stock antenna of the O3, and obviously it works on both 2.4 and 5.8 gigahertz. Then here we have the SpeedyBee GPS. I have one of those on my 5-inch drone and it's spectacular GPS module. I get always around 30 satellites fixed. Then the props, chosen the T90 3 blades props, and then I'm gonna install the SpeedyBee Meteor LEDs as well. And that's all the components I'm gonna use for my build. So let's get started. So out of the frame kit, we grab the top plate and the stack screws. We are gonna use the screws provided by the frame kit, as surely they're gonna fit perfectly in the build and our stack. And what we do first, we are gonna install the ESC on the frame. So this is the top side and the camera will be over here. The front side, I mean, yep, and the rear side. We are gonna use the M2 18mm screw stack for 2020 stack, as written over there. Okay, first step, we are gonna install the ESC on the frame, and the capacitor, I'm gonna let it go through this hole from underneath. Just make sure once you put the capacitor and the ESC on the frame to check that the ESC sits fully on the frame. It's not moved by the capacitor, just like this. Hopefully you can see it sits from this side as well as this side here. I got these nuts from the M2 12mm, so I'm gonna screw at least 2 sides, so when we go to put the motors on, the ESC doesn't move. Then once the motors are installed, obviously I'm gonna remove these nuts. I'm gonna screw the motors on, so we will see once I'm done there, right? The motors have been mounted on the frame. Now it's time to solder them onto the ESC. Now I'm gonna measure how long I need the wires to be, and gonna cut. And I don't mind about the motor direction, because then we can change if we need in better flight. It's always a good idea to cut a little bit longer than how much you actually need, so you avoid some problem later on. I'm gonna install the others off camera and install the power cable as well. We'll see when I'm done. Just finished soldering the motors on the ESC and the power cable as well. The power cable I used was not the one which came with the stack, because that one is a XT30 connector, but my batteries all have the XT60, so I used one of my power cable. Now we're gonna install the flight controller on. Connect to the ESC. I've also checked with the multimeter in continuity mode for any short. No shorts have been detected. It's always a good idea to check for any shorts at each step we make, so it's easy to troubleshoot in case something is not quite right. Alright, now we go with the next step of the build. We are gonna install the O3 into the canopy. Let's go. Okay, first thing we grab the canopy and we are gonna install this piece which will hold the O3, and the screws we need are the M2 3mm in this bag. Nice thing about this frame kit is that all the screws are separated and labeled, so easy to find. Let's install this piece first. Okay, next we are going to install this one onto the frame, and what we need next are the stands off M315. I'm gonna use just 3 of those first. The last one I will install later. And then the screw we need to put this one in are the M3 14mm. So M3 14mm. Yeah, this one. Alright. Now we jump onto the O3 because we need to make some adjustment before we install in here. Show you in a second. Okay, here we are with the O3 unit. I've already installed the camera into the guards here. So what you need to install this one is the screw, the M2.58mm for both sides, and the standoff is the M2.5 20mm. And another thing, even if you use your O3 stock antenna, you need to remove anyway, because you need to install this ring, and this one will help the antenna to fit properly and to stay nice and firm within the TPU. So I'm going to install my own antenna. And probably it's a good idea to install the antenna into the TPU first. Okay, the TPU is in. I'm gonna install the antenna. Okay, since we have the TPU not mounted on the frame yet, I'm gonna also install the Immortal T antenna now. Now it's time to mount the O3 on the frame. Okay, here we are. We're gonna install the O3 into this slot, and we are gonna install the camera and then the TPU to hold the O3 unit in place. For the camera we need the M3 14mm screws, which are those ones. For this one we need the M2 6mm screws. M2, which are those ones. Yep. For DJI 3 TPU. Okay, the O3 is installed. Now we're gonna solder the O3 onto the flight controller, the receiver, GPS and LEDs. Alright, we're gonna install the GPS into the drone first. And I've got this TPU, which is supposed to be also for the SpeedyBee 35, but it's not the one given into the frame kit. It's 3D printed and it's a little bit larger to nicely accommodate this GPS, and to just a little bit remove some of the TPU for the connector to sit properly. I'm gonna let the wire go through, probably supposed to go through here. Let's see if we can do it. It's quite a challenge to let them go in. I'm gonna screw in, and the screws for this, for the GPS, are the M2.5 6mm, M2.5 6mm. Here we are. GPS is on. Now I believe I'm gonna install the LEDs down here, and then we get the receiver organized. Okay, here we got the SpeedyBee Meteor LEDs. I've already used these LEDs in a previous project, in which I also explain all of the specs and features of these LEDs. If you wanna go and check out, I'll leave the link at the end of the video. Anyway, so first we need to let these two wires go through there as well, which is gonna be a bit tricky now. Okay, let's them get out from here first. We install it and then we continue. the standoff, and now I believe it's time to put it in. Let's just try to get these cables to the other side. And it's a bit of a challenge to get this standoff in there, because there are so many cables going all the way around. I've been finally able to insert the standoff in here, and I screwed the module, LEDs module in here. The screw which goes in here is the one which comes with the LEDs, and the one I installed here is the M3 14mm, same as those other three. Alright, now I'm gonna get the receiver wired up, and then we are gonna assemble everything on the flight controller. Okay, we're gonna get the receiver ready. As I said, I'm gonna use the TBS Nano receiver. So I'm going to use the yellow one for channel 2. The white one for channel 1. And then here we have the 5V. And ground. Okay, let's start to solder everything on the flight controller now. So we're getting to the last steps of this build. Okay, we start by soldering on the receiver first, and the flight controller suggests to install the receiver onto these 4 pads here, the ground, 4.5V, RX2 and TX2. So we start to get these pads ready. TX2. Ground, 5V. So channel 1 is TX, and we go on RX on the flight controller. And channel 2 is RX and goes on to the TX on the flight control. Next, we're going to install the O3A unit. We're going to use the 9V ground, TX1 and RX1. Okay. Let's start with the 9 volt. Okay. Ground. The white one is from the O3 RX and we're gonna put on TX on the flight controller. And TX from the O3 to RX. Okay, next we solder the GPS on and we go for the 4.5 volt ground, RX6 and up here the TX6. So also here I got the VBAT pad I'm gonna fix as well, because now I'm gonna solder the power of the LEDs right now. Otherwise, if I install the TX up here for the GPS first, then I'm not gonna be able to have any access on this pad. So we're gonna fix this one as well now. The yellow one from the GPS should be the TX, and so we need to install it on the RX. Okay, GPS is on. Now we finish the LEDs. So I'm gonna use this ground here, which is supposed to be for the LEDs, but I'm not gonna use all the LEDs rather than this. Okay. Everything is soldered on. Here we are. I'm gonna connect this one to the flight controller USB port. So now we are gonna screw everything in, and we start with this 4 screws here, and the one we need the M3 7mm. Okay, now we are gonna screw the action camera holder in. And for this one we need the M3 10mm screws, which is in a different pack. Okay, we're gonna install the top plate, and the screws for this one are the M3 9mm, this one. So that's what I'm gonna do next. Then I'm gonna install the Mortal T antenna holder and the LEDs all around, and we will see once I'm done with that. Alright, the build is completed, and I've already used the multimeter in continuity mode to check for any shorts, and there's nothing. So it's time to plug the battery in and see how it looks. I've connected the ESC to BL Heli and added a ringtone as well. So let's see how it sounds as well. If you enjoyed this video, if you have found it useful, please leave a like, subscribe, and wait for the next part, beta flight configuration. Thank you so much for watching. See you at the next one.